Well, hello and welcome to this edition of 907 Sports. I'm Jordan Rodenberger calling the plays in this one, joined by a very special guest, Harlow Robinson, Executive Director of the Alaska Sports Hall of Fame. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey man, it's good to be here, Jordan.
Always, and we had to bring you in because around this time every year, the Alaska Sports Hall of Fame announces their Directors Awards. 7 of them handed out, including some Pride of Alaska. You can think Athlete of the Year, but also some other ones as well, Joe Floyd and Trajan Langdon. So how did the Directors Awards kind of come about, and why are they important to the Alaska sports community here?
Yeah, I mean, we initially, our first several years with the Alaska Sports Hall of Fame, our focus was on inducting people, moments, and events into the Hall of Fame. And I think about 5 years in, we started, certainly didn't lose momentum, but we also kind of realized we were missing an opportunity to kind of bookend what we were doing with the more contemporary side, because there really wasn't anything like it in the state. There had been way back in the past, sort of like an annual banquet, but you have to go all the way back to like the 80s. And so we're like, why not initiate that and kind of create this ESPYs for Alaska vibe with our event. So Pride of Alaska, like you said, Athlete of the Year, and then these other awards which kind of look at some of the other aspects of sports.
Yeah, it's super cool because, getting inducted to the Alaska Sports Hall of Fame, that's a lifelong, career-long achievement. But for these Directors Awards, this is what you accomplished this past year, and not necessarily 2024. But so you walk me through a little bit of what the calendar window looks like for this year's Directors Awards.
Right, yeah, we typically have our annual ceremony in late April, and the timing is a little funky for doing a calendar year. We also want to look at, with high school athletes, typically it revolves around a school academic year, so really what we're looking at with these awards is more of like a mid-March to mid-March, if instead of a calendar year.
And that makes sense because, we're right about that time where those winter sports are done, skiing, hockey, dog mush, and basketball. Yep. So hitting into the new sports calendar, us sports guys have different parts of the year, different calendars for sure. Excited to get down to these 7 awards, and of course the Pride of Alaska, which we will get to shortly. But we've got to start with the Joe Floyd Award, named after Joe Floyd, the longtime Kodiak coach. Long-lasting impact on your community and in sports. So this year, for the adult category, a lot of nominees and candidates for that, but who is taking the 2025 Joe Floyd Award?
So the winner is Dane Ferguson. And
Yeah, Dane Ferguson, it's an award for lasting impact in the community, and he certainly fits that. He's the late Dane Ferguson, passing away in December, unfortunately. He certainly embodies that. 2009 Winter X Games gold medalist, started the Alaska Snow Crossing Lions Club, creating safe places for kids to get on the machines and do it in a safe manner. A mentor to many of these, kind of got a lot of these kids and youth into this sport and doing it safely. So, how did Dane kind of fit this award and why he's deserving of that?
Yeah, like you said, this award is kind of giving us a chance to shine a light on some of the people in every community has somebody like this that does all the behind the scenes work, a lot of selfless work just because they're so passionate and they really believe at the core in community. And for Dane, it's so tragic that he passed away unexpectedly just a few months ago. So this is really going to be a chance to pay tribute to his legacy. Unfortunately, it'll be a posthumous award, but he was certainly somebody that he really and truly represented the snow machine community in just an amazing way. He's going to be leave a huge void behind him, but I mentioned legacy. He certainly left a legacy. He was also beyond just being passionate about the sport of snowmobiling, snow machining, as we say in Alaska. He was a humanitarian. He was a pretty dynamic human, and it's going to be a really special evening just to be able to kind of look at his life and what he's left behind.
Absolutely, yeah. Community losing a big member there for sure. And a couple of other nominees we had saw this year was Lynn Hinderman, a pioneer in women's cross country, one of the first female coaches in the country, if I'm not mistaken. And then Archie Young, who's longtime a Mount Edgecombe basketball coach and heavily involved in the Native Youth Olympics and traditional games and such. So a lot of great candidates throughout this one.
Yeah, and and you're just mentioning the 3 finalists, and with these awards every year, I mean, we put out a call for nominations and recommendations, and boy, with some of these categories, we get upwards of 20 or 30 names, and then it's just a process of narrowing those down, and by the time we get to 3 finalists, it's been a really thorough process. We don't want to overlook a candidate, and it's a big state. It's a diverse state sports-wise, so we try to make sure people are aware that the candidates and the public are aware that just to make this final group of 3 is a big deal in and of itself.
Big time, especially considering those who have won it in the past. Kyle last year, Paralympian, and then Beth Bragg, longtime sports journalist. So yeah, it's a elite class of people who have made a huge impact in Alaska sports over the years. So that is the Joe Floyd Award, Dane Ferguson there. And then heading on to the Trajan Langdon Award, the namesake, Alaska's first NBA player, which is awesome. But this is more about than the talent, but more about inspiration. What kind of goes the idea behind the Trajan Langdon Award?
Right, yeah, it's more about character. Sports, it's certainly we want to recognize outstanding athletic achievement, but sports is also a part of our culture and our society, and there are people and moments that transcend sports and just kind of, shine a light on the positive aspects of humanity. And so that's what this award is all about. Trajan Langdon, you mentioned it, the basketball player. He was obviously one of the all-time greats from coming out of Alaska as a hooper, but he also was known for just being a person of outstanding integrity and just kind of quality of character. So this award is really one of our favorites because it's so fun to, there's so many inspirational people out there, and this just gives us a chance to shine a light on a few of those.
Absolutely, and this year's Adult Trajan Langdon Award winner is Rebecca McKee, the Ironman triathlete. Incredible story, persevering through a rough recovery in a 2023 full hysterectomy, experiencing some complications in that recovery, and then bounced back in a major way, winning the 50 to 54 age group at Ironman Hawaii. I mean, that story tells itself, but why was Rebecca, a great candidate and a award-worthy winner for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that overcoming adversity piece was huge. Many times the award winner in this category is somebody that overcame some sort of adversity. Her vulnerability in what she went through and being courageous enough to speak out and be really public about it, I think brought a lot of other people out of the woodwork that had gone through similar situations, and so she kind of became a trailblazer or a support mechanism for a lot of people that had been, kind of not felt like they'd had support in going through something similar, and then, like you said, just her overcoming what she went through. If anyone in the people in the triathlon community know what an amazing, she's a master's level athlete at this point, but she's incredibly accomplished, and she didn't slow her down. So.
Rebecca McKee, tough as nails, definitely well deserved honor there. And some other nominees, Maureen McCrea, 80 years old, finishing a Mount Marathon. I know that'd be tough for me at my age, but for her, completing it at 80 was incredible. as well, which was super cool to see. And then Nate Thompson, NHL player from Alaska. We know him from his battles and fighting on the ice, but he also had his own battles off the ice, substance abuse and grappling with sobriety, and now nearly 10 years sober. He's been a huge inspiration for that, so I could see him, falling into that category in the future. But some great nominees for that one as well, for sure.
Absolutely.
And we do have a Youth Trajan Langdon Award winner because, these stories of inspiration, that's what we love to tell here on Alaska's News Source. And this one was a one to me that I clicked immediately and was like, this is a clear candidate. Who do we have for the Trajan Langdon Youth Award winner?
So he's a Homer football player by the name of Jackson Snarek.
Yes.
And just an amazing, we talk about overcoming adversity with Rebecca McKee, similar but different. He was born with a physical disability that certainly didn't slow him down on the football field. He's a football star. He was the difference maker in their state championship game. And by all accounts, a wonderful individual. When I contacted the school and got in touch with his coach just said it couldn't have happened to a better person, and he was, incredibly well deserving. So it's always good for us when we hear those things.
Yeah, it's big time, and I want to relive that moment in that game from that because it was such a special moment. So here's a little bit back into this state championship football season. In some ways, Homer's Jackson Snarek is a lot like other athletes.
He's a huge energy player. Yeah, he brings a lot of energy to this team, especially on defense, and it's great having him.
He plays multiple sports.
I'm going to play basketball this year and up in the air between soccer and track.
And dreams of coming up with the big plays in the big moments.
I've been waiting to make a really good play this season, and I got the opportunity.
But aside from the standout playmaking,
again, and this one is swatted away. Snarek on the pass protection.
There's another visible difference. Snarek was born with Poland syndrome, impacting the use of one arm and hand.
What happens in the womb is just a lack of circulation, and then it just causes deformities in the arm and just left upper body kind of.
But that didn't prevent him from coming up with one of the biggest defensive plays in the Division III Alaska High School Football State Championship game. In the fourth quarter of a one-possession game, Snarek used his right arm and body to haul in an interception to seal the state championship victory.
Jackson's been doing that all season, when we needed a big-time play, the defense came up with it.
And it's picked off!
Because Snarek isn't just another name on the roster. He's a difference maker for the now state champion Homer Mariners.
It doesn't really even come up in practice and really hasn't since he started playing for us, and people will underestimate him and they'll kick to him. He's one of our kick returners, and they'll throw on him, and he makes them pay.
A moment Snarek has been preparing for all his life.
Don't give up in putting the hours off the field, even if nobody's watching, because I know I definitely put in some hours when there's nobody else really there to watch.
A moment ending with him helping hoist the championship trophy.
I want to prove that I can be just as good or better than everyone else, even with the disability, and I think I can prove that pretty well.
Incredible stuff from Jackson there, well deserved, and looking forward to everybody celebrating him come the ceremony time for sure.
Yeah, and these ceremonies, and I should put a plug in, at some point because, first and foremost, they're free and open to the public. We don't turn people away. Sometimes the seats are full, but there's plenty of standing room, and it's really a really fun, special evening. We try to get all these honorees, all these athletes here in person, and it's a good chance to sometimes get a little starstruck, and with our inductees this year, Alev Kelter, Brandon Dubinsky, Mario Chalmers, they'll be there, and but also just to support some of the amazing athletes we have in the state. So
yeah, some of Alaska's best. Yeah, all getting under one roof, and we'll definitely get more details on that ceremony later in this edition of 907 Sports, as we should probably get to Pride of Alaska, shall we, Harlow?
All right.
Let's start with the Youth Boys Awards. We have adult and youth and male and female, so we'll have 4 coming up here. Let's start with the Youth Boys Pride of Alaska winner.
All right. So the winner is Jack Levesque.
Jack Levesque, the 15-year-old skier, he bursted on the scene this year. I mean, he really made his presence known both on the trails in Alaska as a state champion, but then nationally, junior national champion, sweeping the podium there. He dominated the trails against all ages. He's 15 going against 19-year-olds, but that didn't slow him down. Jack Levesque, I mean, what can you say about the year he had this year?
I know. He burst on the scene is right. I mean, if we would have put a list together of potential candidates before the year had started, he would not have appeared on that list at all, unlike some of our candidates. But I think as the season went along, and by the way, the voters on this is our board of directors, so they spent a lot of time reading the little capsules. Credit to Beth Bragg for writing all those, and I think by the time voting came around, we kind of looked at Jack's body of work. It was really hard to overlook. And not to dismiss any of the other athletes and their achievements, and there's some other incredible athletes, but what Jack did this year was on a huge national and sometimes worldwide stage. And you said he's only 15, he's a sophomore, he'll be back, and it's going to be really fun to watch this guy. He has a really good, not to put any pressure on a young man, but really good chance to be the next great skier to come out of Alaska.
Definitely, and he has those to look up to as well, including like the likes of Gus Schumacher, which was pretty fun. In early April, there was one last ski race at Kincaid, and they connected for the first time. Gus, about 24,
right.
Olympian, he's been there, done that, former service skier and junior national champion.
Yeah.
And Jack's kind of right on those footsteps, and Jack asked for a selfie with Gus, and so that was a cool moment. And then Gus said, "I'm a fan of you." And then he said, "What?" Like Jack's face lit up when Gus even knew who he was.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
on that note, Jan Baran is, he's a pretty well-known ski coach in Anchorage with the Alaska Winter Stars and Service High School, and he was. We had a little bit of a deja vu moment because I had a phone conversation with Jan about Jack, and when he was kind of endorsing him as a candidate, and kind of remembered having a similar conversation about 8 years ago with Gus Schumacher when he was about the same age. Wow. And we kind of realized that we were kind of going full circle, and they're two different people and probably two different trajectories, but certainly there's some symmetry there.
Yeah, and there could be an overlap there. If Jack becomes an APU skier or U.S. team, and Gus is still doing his thing, so there could be some overlap there. But yes, shout out Jack Levesque, well-deserved, and with the trajectory and pace, he could get some more awards from Alaska Sports Hall of Fame
That's right.
in the future. But like we said, we won't put any pressure on him. Other nominees, Robbie Annette from Grace Christian, the state champion runner, also played basketball there, and then Caden Peely, Diamond football, taking them to new heights, player of the year and state champion.
Absolutely, yeah, and you could look at any of those three and very deserving. Totally. And what Robbie Annette did and what Caden Peely did within their sports, both of them talented multi-sport athletes, certainly very notable, and lots of big kudos to those guys.
For sure, and we'll stick with the youth Pride of Alaska and go towards the girls' sides of things. This is high school and under, 18 and under 17U in that area. So who are we looking at for our Pride of Alaska girls winner?
So out of Wasilla, Layla Hayes.
Shout out Layla Hayes. She could have won in this award, any of the last 2 or 3 years, really, with what she's been up to and how much of an impact she's had at Wasilla, not only in basketball, where she's going Division I, Iowa, like the Iowa Hawkeyes, heading there, 6'5" forward, but also state champion in volleyball. So Layla Hayes, Pride of Wasilla right now, doing incredible things for them, well-deserved in this honor.
Yeah, absolutely. She, I think the fact that she was so good at two sports, as well as I do, how many great high school girl basketball players there are in the state right now.
Oh my goodness.
There's really about 4 or 5 that could have easily made our final list of 10 girl candidates from around all sports across the state. But the fact that Layla was so solid across 2 sports, and on top of that, she got the most glowing nomination from her coach, who's the very respected Coach Jeannie Hebert-Truax, who not only just spoke to her talent as an athlete, but just her quality of leadership and character on the court, and the fact that I think unselfish was a word she used a ton. She said, that if Layla wanted to put up monster numbers, she could have done that every night, but she's more concerned about playing the game the right way and winning, and that means getting your teammates involved, and so we're really excited and happy to honor her.
For sure, and in a very stacked class of girls athletes, like you mentioned, Amelia Fawcett, national champion wrestler from Colony, 18-0 season, and then Claire Mullen, Sitka state champion runner. So hard to go to narrow that one down.
And I'm telling you, Jordan, I think of all the categories that we voted on this year, the girls, high school girls category was probably the toughest, and I think if you looked at the 10 names on our ballot, you could have made an argument for any of the 10.
Right.
So speaks to Layla Hayes. It's a testament to what a great candidate she was. She came out on top.
Yeah, definitely. And last year being Emily Robinson, a musher, just shows the diversity and talent, of these athletes around the state. So now we're on to the Adult Pride of Alaska Award winners. Definitely like one of the most sought after awards you could win in Alaska sports. So who is taking the honors of this year's Directors Awards Pride of Alaska men?
That would be David Norris.
David Norris. I mean, how did he keep outdoing himself? I don't know, but he's somehow managed to shave off 49 seconds from his own record at Mount Marathon, and now has us thinking, can this be done in under 40 minutes, which would have never been thought of any time before. This dude is 5 for 5 in Mount Marathon. He's done it 5 times, he's won it 5 times. Like, that's unheard of, because so many things have to go right, not only during the race, but leading up to it, sickness, illness, injuries, all that. So David Norris also strapping on the skis and getting runner-up finish in one of the biggest cross-country ski races in the nation. So David Norris, just 2017 winner, if I'm not mistaken, coming back and taking this one again.
Man, I tell you, and on top of all that, he's from Flat Fairbanks.
Yes. Yes.
More or less. I
right.
mean, you got some nice domes up there.
No,
Jordan,
right.
I know,
but you got to go searching for those.
It's really remarkable. I mean, mountain running is a huge sport in Alaska, and the number of people and the talent of the people that have taken a crack at that race and never come close, and even at a world-class level, athletes never come close to the times that David Norris has done. It's really hard to appreciate how talented this guy is. And you mentioned skiing. I mean, he was a U.S. ski team member. Mountain running is kind of something that he's kind of came into in a little later in life, and it was sort of his second sport. But now he's at a level where he's certainly one of the top mountain runners in the world.
Yeah.
And
not just Alaska, as he's proven over and over, but yeah, in the world, doing things on the national and international stage, on the skis, with his sneakers. If there's a trail, David Norris is probably on it and dominating. That's awesome. Yeah, and we had some other great nominees as well. Jesse Holmes, the 2025 Iditarod champion, was right in the mix, and then of course JT Thor, basketball player from Anchorage, NBA and G Leaguer, but mainly for his time representing South Sudan in the Olympics and representing Alaska there too. Yeah,
you mentioned how diverse Alaska is. that list of 3 really exemplifies that. I mean, yeah, JT Thor, that was a really cool story. Just he kind of with the success of that South Sudan team in the Olympics, and I think JT Thor himself had a couple viral moments playing against Team USA where, if I'm not mistaken, he had a block on LeBron James late in the game, and I'm sure moments that he'll never forget. And in those moments, Alaska got mentioned on the national, probably beyond national television. So pretty cool.
Yeah, how many Alaskans can say they blocked LeBron James?
Not many.
Maybe
not
Mario
many.
in practice or something, but
Boy.
even then, I don't know if that.
Yeah, maybe,
JT's probably right there. Maybe
Yeah,
Boozer. Yeah,
maybe Boozer. Yeah,
got
that might
piece
be a
of-
good guess.
Yeah, there you go. That's incredible. So, shout out David Norris getting the Pride of Alaska Men's Award. And speaking of Olympics, we were just talking about it. No spoilers, but it was a big Olympic year for our athletes. So,
Yep.
who will be taking home the Pride of Alaska Women's Award winner this year?
Well, surprise, surprise, but the winner is Kristen Faulkner.
I mean, how do you even? You can't deny 2 gold medals. What can you say about her performance? And from a broad end perspective of what this meant to Alaska sports and in general, and just like, was this even possible? 2 summer golds, is that even fathomable until Faulkner proved to us, made us a believer that this is possible?
It's incredible. That Olympic moment is right there with, we all remember a few years ago, Lydia Jacoby and Keegan Randall not long before that. Just, I think we've had some pretty incredible women Olympic gold medal moments.
Right.
And you could add Tommy Moe to that and his
Certainly.
gold medal, but boy, I guess if you're going to make a Mount Rushmore, those would be the ones. And the fact that cycling is just not a huge sport in Alaska, and that she just in the most dramatic possible manner won that gold medal.
Gosh, that road race was incredible.
Just amazing. And Kendall Kramer and Alev Kelter were the other 2 finalists in that category, and either of them would have been amazing winners in their own right, and they both had amazing years. But Kristen was a bit of a buzzsaw this year with the success she had in the Olympics.
Any other year, they probably would have won it. I mean, how often do you get a bronze medal in the Summer Games and still wasn't like, but for Alev, with Alev Kelter, speaking of, she will be honored and recognized in another way this year. So there's some details on the Alaska Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony and what we're expecting there and the dates and such.
Right, June 5th at the Anchorage Museum, the evening of June 5th. And Alev Kelter and Brandon Dubinsky are the 2 people that will be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. I was really looking forward to that. And then we're also inducting 2 moments in our sports history. One of those is a very singular moment, and Mario Chalmers, the shot, we say here in Alaska, for Kansas. And so Mario Chalmers game tying shot in the NCAA championship game, which they ended up winning, and it's a pretty iconic moment. And then the other was more of a moment in time that really changed the way the world viewed Anchorage and Alaska as far as being a venue for sports, and that's when Anchorage won the Olympic bid, became United States choice to host the Olympics, and it was a very kind of ground-changing moment for Alaskans when that happened back in the mid '80s. So
wow.
So those are the 4 inductees this year, and so Alev will be here as well as Brandon and Mario Chalmers and the surviving members of that Olympic committee. So.
Incredible stuff there. So yeah, don't want to miss that June 5th Alaska Sports Hall of Fame inductee. We'll have those, and these award winners will be recognized there as well. So some fun stuff to look forward to telling those stories as we approach it. But appreciate you checking in and giving us some insight. Always look forward to this time of year, highlighting our amazing athletes. There's so many, and we wish we could go and, each one deserves their own intel. But yes, we'll get to that in a little bit. But appreciate you joining us, Harlow, and good luck leading up to it. And
Thanks,
a lot of work to be done for that. For sure. And, the sports stuff goes on. This week, Ryan McCarthy was hired as the Fresno State Division I basketball coach. And so we've been chatting, interviewed him today, interviewed some former players just about his impact, because so much success in his time here. So we'll leave you with a former player, Kamani Fernandez, and her thoughts on Coach McCarthy's impact with UAA basketball. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah. And just a few more questions. Do you know why he coached the way he did? Did he bring up like any? I mean, he wasn't military, was he? I mean, Did he just, he must, I don't know, was he just that hard on himself as a player when he was in college, you think? Or do you know what?
I definitely do think he was that hard on himself as a player in college. He does really like watching military videos, and in fact, a lot of the times he says that um, part, actually, part of his coaching, I wouldn't say part of it comes from the Marine Corps, but he does derive a lot of like leadership attributes and like I would say teaching strategies from just like military novels and like stuff like that. He kind of gets us in the mentality of just like being kind of strong and fighting through adversity a lot. And so he's had us watch different military kind of like shows and documentaries, which has been like kind of cool. And so I think a little bit to that kind of feeds into the way he coaches as well. But I would just say that like he has a mentality that I feel like not a lot of people have in terms of like competitiveness, and it's hard to create that in someone else. And it's just kind of like he definitely embraces kind of like when it does suck, but he's also able to embrace the times when it like everything's really good.
Yeah, and I guess the obvious question is, did being a part of UAA women's basketball, did that have, you know, what role, if any, did that have in you know, deciding to go into the Marines?
um, I will say that prior to going into college at all, I had decided that I wanted to join the military. When it came to like my senior year and I was deciding on a branch, I wasn't sure yet. And then I had called out and reached out to a bunch of recruiters from like the Air Force, the Navy, like pretty much every branch, and talked to every single one on the phone. But for me, when it came to the Marines and talking to the recruiter and then like talking further down the line and what would be expected of me, it just fit so much into my personality. And I very much think that possibly UAA had a role in developing that for me. But I do think the orientation, the way the Marine Corps ran, the community that we have here, it very much fits to who I am and really how I was raised from when I was little too. My dad was pretty hard on me growing up, but he always, made sure to let me know that he was proud and, tell me those things as well. So